specified in Article 9 as printed in the warrant. Sorry for that, we had a typographical error. Notice how I blame everybody but myself.
Okay, the motion is to appropriate such sum as may be allotted from the Chapter 90 apportionment. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Mr. Jones, Sr.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends, again, this is an annual article. The only reason it doesn't have a sum certain on it is because we don't know what the state will appropriate, so we are simply approving any or all funds they want to send us.
Is there any further discussion? Does the Board of Selectmen have a recommendation? Mr. Smith?
Board of Selectmen recommend.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. On Article 10, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Article 11, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Moderator, I move to appropriate by the sum of $400,000 for the purpose of funding Phase 2 of the town's comprehensive wastewater management plan, and that to meet this appropriation, the Treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow said sum from the Massachusetts Water Pollution Abatement Trust.
You've heard the motion. This involves borrowing, requires a two-thirds vote. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Mr. Jones, Sr.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee recommends first to the $400,000 that comes from the state revolving fund. Under the current guidelines, there is no interest charge on this borrowing. If this decision is delayed to another town meeting, that may not be true because there is potential forward legislation to perhaps increase it to a 2% charge. I'm not going to do the presentation on the article per se because I think that others will do it. But if we are ever going to have sewers, we must go through this process because it's mandated by state statute, regulations, etc. We have to do it through the whole town, where in fact probably the greatest need lies in that portion of the town west of the Route 28 corridor. And in that portion of town, it falls into two areas. One is residential, particularly those areas in Martin Pond who have small lots, and with the advent of Title V, we're just not resolving our problems for either the homeowners, the Martin Pond, the aquifer, etc. And the second group will be any commercial development that we may encourage by it. We have been stuck forever with the 14–16% commercial value in town and the 82–84% residential. And if we can't move off that dime somewhat, we're going to continue to face some financial dilemmas. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Does the Board of Selectmen have a recommendation, Mr. Smith?
Board of Selectmen by a majority, 3-2 votes, recommend.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Pasquale, please state your name and address, sir.
John Pasquale, 12 Hickory Lane. Mr. Hanlon, as you're well aware, I go to many meetings. So where does that great post office fit in this when I sit there and then take lots of notes about they got $250,000 they're going to give us. Now we're going to state for $400. So tell me about the funny money now.
Mr. Hanlon, did you understand?
Are they involved in this project too? I mean, the people aren't getting the big picture like I get it.
Mr. Pasquale, could you give me a signal when you're finished with your question? Mr. Hanlon, do you understand Mr. Pasquale's question, and do you have an answer to it?
Kind of, sort of, Mr. Moderator. That's because you attend the meetings, John, obviously. To answer John's question specifically, but to go through the article that was in the transcript very briefly, we tried to do it on a question and answer to talk to basically where we've been, where we are, and where we got to go in the future with wastewater facility planning. with us tonight to assist in the presentation and answer some questions if necessary are our Public Works Utilities Engineer, Mark Clark, and also Bob Goober from the engineering firm of Weston Sampson out of Peabody. The official title that the Department of Environmental Protection requires us to proceed is called to fund the comprehensive wastewater and EIR environmental impact report. Why are we doing it? Brad Jones Sr. Addressed it lightly, but back in '91, town meeting supported, that was the initiative for the study of sewers, if you will, or a sewer district, was the Concord Street area that was supported at a town meeting vote to, in fact, create a sewer district. Since then, there have been other constraints, policies, and so forth, regulations by the Commonwealth that have accelerated the necessity of the town to proceed to look at other alternatives than subsurface disposal systems that we have townwide. That was the Title V initiative, and that, of course, has affected the smaller, denser areas in town, their inability to build or rebuild systems, and when they sell their homes, they're constrained by the Title V enactment. Economic development pretty much speaks for itself. The only place in town that has sewer is the Teradyne Lotus facility at River Park. That is it. Everybody else is on subsurface disposal systems. And obviously, we're looking for tax relief to expand that the amount of taxes that are paid from that commercial industrial base. Is that focused okay? The last couple of years, based on those initiatives, the Public Works Department, being the lead agency on behalf of the town, has approached the Department of Environmental Protection Agency and other state agencies to basically initiate smaller sections of the community that we know are in need or necessitate sewer for growth or Title V relief. The alternatives that we sought were to expand Concord Street and go further sewer Concord Street through the MWRA system that's at River Park that goes through the town of Reading. The answer to that route was no. And the reason, some years ago, that may have been a priority and an initiative that would have been supported, but we have to recharge the Ipswich River Basin, and that's what's really driving the status of the comprehensive wastewater planning. We need to discharge the waters back into our own town boundaries and recharge the Ipswich River. Likewise, we sought portions of town that could go to GLSD, Greater Lawrence Sanitary District, i.e. Martins Pond area. That was also rejected. And we also addressed surface water discharge. That is, in fact, if we could build some plant that could treat sewer and then discharge into the Ipswich River on the surface. Unfortunately, our flows are so low that there are times of the year when the only flow of the river would be what we discharge from a treatment plant, and that was unacceptable. As of this year, the state, and specifically the Department of Environmental Protection, because that's the primary agency we have to deal with, has come back to the community and said, you are at the stage where you have to do a town-wide assessment and an environmental impact report. The only discharge that they'll accept is discharge into the ground. So if you can fathom a large subsurface septic system, just like you have in your home, only to treat portions of the town, that creates a dilemma in terms of, do we have the land available to even pursue this course? The Phase 1 course, then, we have just completed, was to in fact see if there are town or public lands, and that's what DEP is looking for, public lands available for groundwater discharge. If you look at the bottom bullet, the $100,000 was a gift from the General Mail facility based on some anticipation of their involvement and allocation of flows. They came forward with $100,000, which was to fund the first leg of Phase 1. And Phase 1 being, are there any public lands available for groundwater discharge? And we came back with the two sites that you see, the J.T. Berry, which is state-owned, and partly smaller portion town-owned, and also the DPW facility. These areas, by the way, are in the vicinity of the Public Works facility, probably about 150,000 gallons a day just from the start, and the Berry property, about 200,000 gallons per day of discharge. And for those of you, I think everybody knows the J.T. Berry site off of Lowell Road, Route 62, and the DPW site obviously off Chestnut Street. That's in the rear, by the way, of the Public Works facility. That's rear of the transmission lines. Okay. We're on the hook for the $400,000. To specifically get back to John Pasquale's question, the General Mail facility was never a part of the $400,000. The initial $500,000 estimate for Phase 1 and Phase 2, they came up with $100,000. So the request tonight, if you support the $400,000 initiative through a state revolving fund, we'll go forward with the Phase 2. It's one of those situations where as far as we can go, we have to do this process. We have to identify the wastewater management alternatives available to the town. And if we don't, then we don't. And if there's more pressure for sewers, then we'll have to come back at town meeting at another time to get where we are tonight, before we can go with design implementations and infrastructure. Brad Sr. touched on this. State revolving funds are available for just this purpose, both in the planning phase and the infrastructure phase. There are monies to be spread around the state for the communities at a 0% interest. So obviously the math is pretty easy for 20 years. And again, the governor wants to initiate a 2 to 3% charge on these